Landlords are urging President Biden to let the eviction moratorium expire. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an article for you today, and it's from therealdeal.com, and it says, "Dear Mr. President, landlords urge Biden to let eviction ban expire." But before I get into this article, please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit that like button, and I'll keep working to bring you great articles about the eviction moratorium and about other news that's of interest to landlords. And every day some new article is coming out that's telling us a little bit of the stories of landlords across the country and what's going on with them during this eviction moratorium and through these hard times. And I just love bringing you great news. So let's get into it. Throughout the pandemic, landlords and real estate trade groups have filed lawsuits seeking to end the federal eviction ban. So far, none has been unsuccessful. Now, with the moratorium set to end on June 30th, property owners are asking the Biden administration not to issue another extension. Yeah, that's what we want. We want this thing to come to an end. Okay, I would prefer that you just let it expire on June 30th, but they're obviously pursuing cases in the Supreme Court right now, and they're doing everything they can to try to get this thing thrown out. Of course, there's still the state level moratoriums in place, and there's a battle getting rid of those, but if the federal moratorium ends, then the states will know that, hey, it's time that theirs came to an end as well. And hopefully that will be the domino effect will happen, and, the plates will start falling over, and landlords will be able to return to business as normal. 12 organizations representing landlords, brokers, and developers sent a letter to President Biden on Friday asking him to let the one-size-fits-all eviction policy run its course. The group, which includes the National Multifamily Housing Council, the National Association of Realtors, and the National Association of Home Builders, cited the increase in vaccine distribution, along with other COVID mitigation measures the administration has taken, like providing financial assistance to renters, as among the reasons the moratorium was no longer necessary. Yeah, okay. The CDC moratorium was put into place because, simply put, they didn't want to spread the coronavirus through evictions. Now, I personally didn't believe that evictions had anything to do with the coronavirus, and that the effect would be negligible, if at all. Okay, but if that is their reasoning, that the moratorium was put into place, then okay, with all the people who've been vaccinated lately and with the declining numbers of cases and the declining number of deaths, basically it is no longer needed anymore based on their own criteria. But I don't know if they're even looking at that anymore. The ban will only place insurmountable levels of debt on renter households and prevent recovery in the housing sector, according to the 3-page letter sent Friday. Since the start of the pandemic, the federal government has deployed nearly $47 billion to help renters, landlords, and homeowners cover these debts. Tenant Advocates say renters are still struggling to pay their bills and predict a wave of evictions when the ban expires. Yeah, they put $47 billion out there, but they did not have a system in place to make sure that money got to the landlords who needed the money in order to survive, okay? So what it ended up being is a lot of the programs took a very long time to get rolling at all, and sometimes, the people put in applications months ago and they still haven't received any of the assistance yet, okay? So for a lot of landlords, it's just going to be easier just to go through the eviction process, get those tenants out of there, and then get tenants who will pay into their properties. But a lot of the politicians, they don't realize the bureaucratic mess that the rental assistance programs have become. The CDC extended the nationwide moratorium just before it was about to end in late March. Last week, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky would not say whether the agency would issue another extension, according to Reuters. The June 11th letter from landlord groups is the first time they have made their plea directly to Biden. Meanwhile, the CDC's late March eviction moratorium extension came 2 weeks after a letter sent by 2,200 tenant advocate organizations and others that urged President Biden to push back the ban. Yeah, Biden is not going to pay much attention to what these landlords are saying, because the common misperception of a landlord is these super wealthy, multi-billion-dollar hedge funds that own lots of rental properties, when the truth of the matter is the grand majority of landlords are mom and pop operators with just 1 or 2 units, okay? And those people, if they miss out on a single tenant, just one tenant not paying, that can completely ruin them financially. They could be forced into foreclosure, bankruptcy, and just huge amount of distress. And that's not a good thing. That is a horrible thing to happen to them. As COVID rates have dropped in the U.S., courts have been more willing to side with landlord challenges to the moratorium. Still, the federal ban has stood. A federal judge did strike down the ban last month, ruling that the CDC had exceeded its authority, but a stay was issued while the Biden administration appealed that decision. After an appellate court ruled it would not lift that stay, landlord groups appealed the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, that's what I was just mentioning. That case is up in the Supreme Court right now, and I really hope that the Supreme Court takes a good look at it. And, I don't believe that it's constitutional. I just don't. I don't believe that the CDC has the ability to take away someone's property rights. Okay, and right now a lot of the moratorium that is being pushed because of financial reasons, and that's not the original intent of the CDC eviction moratorium. The other issue is that look how long it has lasted. Okay, now some temporary thing that lasts a couple of weeks, everyone probably could have handled, but we're talking about there's been an eviction moratorium in place for 15 plus months. Okay, there are very few businesses that can handle the financial loss of getting no income for 15 months. Okay, so this is completely ridiculous, completely out of line. Economic recovery takes time, and many people still cannot pay back rent while the nation remains in the early phase of reopening, according to the brief, which included the District of Columbia. New York's eviction moratorium. Some states have extended the ban past the federal deadline. New York's eviction moratorium protects tenants until August 31st. The state's rent relief program launched on June 1st with some glitches, and the first rent relief payments won't reach tenants for another 4 to 8 weeks. Wow, 4 to 8 more weeks. And the thing is, they act like the rent relief should be directed to the tenants. I mean, come on. It's the landlords who are providing the housing. The rent relief goes to the landlords, not the tenants. So they need to get this out of their head that like they're paying the tenants. They need to get that out of their head because they are talking about the wrong group. The wrong group. The landlords are the ones who need that money. On Monday, the National Multifamily Housing Council sent a release to landlords in anticipation of the moratorium's expiration. It listed measures they could take, like encouraging tenants to apply for rent relief, offering tenants payment plans, and extending 30-day notices before filing an eviction proceeding. Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, there's going to be a lot of landlords who, the second the moratorium is over, they are going to immediately file for eviction against some of these tenants, okay? Some of them are just people they need out of their properties. And there's nothing that will stop that, okay? There's no amount of rent relief. Some landlords don't even want the rent relief. They just want that tenant gone. And I don't blame these landlords. They have the right to do with their property as they see fit, except right now, apparently. And hopefully the Supreme Court steps in here and fixes this situation, and if they don't, I hope the Biden administration lets it expire. But as I've said in other videos, I really do not expect that to happen, and I do expect them to extend it to September or maybe even longer.